Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the people here today and to all the people that are here online. So we'll start by standing. So Councillor Karen Provis will read the affirmation.
We recognise the traditional owners of the land. We are inspired by the early pioneers and by those who gave their lives for our country. We now ask God's blessing on our deliberations and on our commitment to build a better lifestyle and environment.
Thank you. So this council meeting is being recorded and live streamed on Council's YouTube channel. The recording will also be made available on Council's website. Whilst all care has been taken to ensure that your privacy is maintained, please be aware that your presence may be recorded. So do you have any apologies? No apologies. Item 2, confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation. Would somebody like to read out that recommendation?
Happy to move that the minutes appear to be an accurate record, Madam Mayor.
Somebody would like to second that?
Yeah, I'll second it. Thank you.
Do you have anyone opposed? Okay, that's carried. Any matters arising from the minutes? No matters arising from the minutes. Any presentations or awards? There's no presentations or awards. Any presentations of petitions and joint letters? We have none. Item 6, disclosure of conflict of interest at a council meeting. Does anybody have a conflict of interest? So I'm just going to declare that there's a question that's come to us today, question without notice, that I believe that I have a conflict in, so Councillor Hyde will chair that particular time at the meeting.
Yeah, I'll second it. Thank you.
Number 9, consideration of reports of officers. So 9.1.1, the Council Action Plan report. So we have a recommendation there. So if somebody would like to move that recommendation.
Mayor, I'd like to move that the Council notes the Action Plan report for the 1st of August 2024 to the 31st of January 2025 period and approves the forecast plan.
Thank you. Councillor Greenberger.
I'll second that nomination.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Greenberg, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. As at the 31st of January, with still 5 months to go, I believe the plan demonstrates that while one item has been deferred to be considered under the next council plan, the majority of items are deemed to be on track, either having been completed or are in progress, with a small number being monitored for when funding opportunities for other sources will enable action. I believe that the majority of items, 89% of items, are on track, and a small number, 19% of actions, are being monitored at the moment. So in moving this recommendation, I'd also like to add my congratulations to Northern Grampians Shire staff on achieving such positive outcomes so far in respect to the last 4-year plan. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Probus.
Just affirming what Jenny has said, it's good to see that so many things are in control and in plan and working on a time schedule. One thing I have noticed, though, this is the council plan is our way of communicating what we're doing with the community, and it's something that we've discussed just recently, that it could be improved to make it a bit more readable and actually give more information to the community. So it's good to see we're on track, and we're actually working on improving how that reads and what sort of information it's going to give to you.
Okay, is any councillor opposed to the motion? Any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Any other councillor wish to speak to the motion? Okay, Councillor Greenberg, would you like to sum up? Okay, so show of hands, those that are for the motion. Okay, that's carried. So item 9.3, providing sustainable infrastructure. So 9.3.1, electoral line clearance management plan 25-26. We have a recommendation there, if someone would like to move that recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that Council adopts the electrical line clearance management plan 25-2026.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Do we have somebody that will second the motion?
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Probus. Councillor Greenberger, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to report that this particular plan is very important to the ongoing public safety of the community. The plan complies with the Electricity Safety Electric Line Clearance Regulations 2020. It is regards the protection of areas of important vegetation which may be deemed as such on the basis of those areas' aesthetic or ecological significance and or the habitat of rare or endangered species, so the plan takes that into consideration. The plan organises for the management of vegetation to maximise the amenity of value of council's trees. It also takes into consideration community satisfaction with the manner in which the necessary works are to be carried out, and it is also taking account that it provides a safe workplace for employees and contractors. So a very important plan for the safety of our community, and I therefore recommend that it be adopted. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Probst, would you like to speak to the motion?
I just wanted to add that trees are really important for our communities, and they make our townships and our areas pretty and attractive and cooler and nice to sit under. And I was really pleased when the staff were reporting to us that they said we do these reviews every 6 months, so that each time they trim the trees back, they don't have to make them really totally ugly. So we do it more often, so it's a little trimming more often rather than bigger cuts less often. So I thought that was very promising.
So any councillor opposed to the motion? Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Greenberger, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add also that it was pointed out to us the difference between areas where council is responsible for tree trimming and other areas around the Shire that are actually the responsibility of other authorities. So if you do have an issue with the way trees are trimmed, please check with our staff to make sure that it is actually a council responsibility. I believe that we take a lot of care to look after, as Councillor Probe said, the amenity of our trees. That may not necessarily always be the case. So thank you, Mayor.
Well said. So show of hands in favour of the motion. Okay, that's carried. So 9.4, improve organisational effectiveness. So 9.4.1 is quarterly financial report. So we have a recommendation there. If someone would like to move that recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the Council notes the financial report for the second quarter ended 31st of December 2024, and B, notes that the Chief Executive Officer advises that the formal adoption of a revised budget for the 2024-2025 financial year is not required.
Do you have a seconder?
I'm happy to second that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hine. So, Councillor Greenberger, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I am really pleased to report that it is projected that the Council will end the year with a $12.3 million in cash. It should be noted that the report only reflects the spending up until the 31st of December 2024. So given the situation that we've had with fires, etc., while it's expected that the amounts spent will be reimbursed, we do have plenty of financial availability to cover that cost if needed. Under Section 97.3 of the Local Government Act 2020, the second quarter financial report requires a statement by the Chief Executive Officer as to whether a revised budget is or may be required, and I'm pleased to note that it is our CEO, Mr McAllister's recommendation that is not required. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hine.
Nothing further to add. Councillor Greenberger has summed it up. Thank you.
So any councillor opposed to the motion? Any councillor like to speak to the motion? Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Greenberger, would you
Nothing further to add.
sum up?
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Have a show of hands. Those in favour of the motion? That's carried. So notices of motion of rescission. Nil. Reports for councillors and committees. So we might start. Councillor Greenberger.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to report on a couple of things that have occurred in the previous month. I'm pleased to report that we had councillors had the opportunity to attend on the 5th of February a workshop called Thriving Regions. It was an online, and it was provided by what I consider to be a very important organisation for our country, which is called Regional Australia Institute. It was an excellent educational section on defining what is community, what makes for a great community, and challenges that communities face and ideas for addressing those challenges. One helpful takeaway for me was the need to identify the drivers in our community that are capable of making things happen. And I think as we're preparing our community plan, finding those people in our community to help us to work and collaborate with council is a really important way of actually achieving positive outcomes for the community. Also, I attended my meeting with, when I attended my meeting with the CEO, each of us councillors have an opportunity to spend one-on-one time with our CEO, which I'm very appreciative of. I took him to visit a property on the outskirts of Stawell called Grands to show him a beautiful statue created by our local sculptor, Peter Voice, of a native orchid. So I introduced our CEO to the beauty of our local native orchids and discuss the iconic nature of this beautiful sculpture. And we'll be discussing more about that in council soon. I attended the opening of the Great Western Football Netball Club rooms, a beautiful brand new community facility, and I would like to pass on my thanks to the previous council for organising funding and providing that facility for Great Western. I've attended a number of listening posts as part of our council plan engagement, one at Conconjella and a couple in Stawell. The other areas that have been very important, I believe, to council in this last month is our work on the VNI West renewables project. As discussed in council, we have all been participating in we participated in a full day of briefings from a full range of stakeholders to bring us all up to speed on that important issue. Following that, and this all happened in the same week, on the Thursday we attended a meeting in Charlton of 5 councils representatives who spoke about what we have in common with respect to that project. And a press release has since been provided, and councils all agreed to join together to form a working group to increase the effectiveness of lobbying efforts. And then on the Friday, we attended a full-day forum in Ararat, Grampians 2025 and beyond. This was a State of the Region forum. Local councils, representatives from state and federal government all gathered. This was an initiative of Regional Development Victoria. The takeaway for me was learning about contacts who can open up pathways to speaking with government going forward on behalf of the council. The other interesting meetings, which are not as such representative of council, is that I've attended a multicultural hub meeting, which the multicultural hub is a really excellent initiative of our local multicultural community who have come together to plan and run activities. And this was one of the very positive outcomes of our Northern Grampians Shire Council Multicultural Officer Initiative. Also, in addition to that, I've had a meeting with Randall Pryor, a man who is the statewide coordinator of an organisation called Community Connections, who support our local palm workers. Palm being a government initiative that enables Pacific Islanders to work on working visas in the country, and we have a lot of palm workers working at our local meatworks. And it was good to be able to meet Randall and learn about what supports he can offer. And then also on that same evening we had a meeting or a gathering at the neighbourhood house where palm workers and representatives of a whole lot of community groups around Stawell came together to build connections between the palm workers themselves and these community groups. And I think it was one of the most successful evenings that I've been to in this kind of environment where actual local people and the palm workers were working in groups and actually talking to each other, which was terrific to see. So thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to discuss any of these items with anybody else who's interested, either councillors or community members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Greenberger. Councillor Blake.
Yes, mine won't be as extensive as Councillor Greenberger's, but I went to a few listening posts, and what we've got out of that is we've got to be able to kind of bring back the trust in our communities and try to work out the divide, because I know that when we went to Great Western, they kind of think it's all about another part of the Shire getting more attention than them themselves. But we've got to be able to bring more, to be able to gain their trust. It's more about trying to do smaller things to win them over, because some bigger things we can't just fix at a light switch. So other than that, and I just see that a lot of us are kind of on a personal level, getting involved in the community more and more, like as in the Manu Hub a couple of weeks ago. I went out there for an evening, and it's good to see that their community, they're trying their best out there at Manu to bring their own community together and to be able to go out there as just another bloke, not just a councillor, to see what's going on and to be relatable to the farmers out there, which is a positive out of it, because they can sit there, they can have their beer and not think that they're, getting judged, or you're not there getting judged yourself. You're actually incorporating ideas that they've got. But other than that, that's about all I've got for you. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Hine.
Thank you. The month has been a busy one, so I won't go through absolutely every bit of detail, but overall the involvement with the fire recovery remains very strong, attending quite a few in-personal and online meetings with multiple groups, community groups, and of course council, in the effort as that recovery out at Halls Gap and the Grampians region. There will be a long process that I will remain committed and involved in. I also met with a local Graham Parks and other members from Landcare and Project Platypus as he took me for a walk around the upper residential streets of Halls Gap, and he pointed out an invasive weed, the Yarraburgan, or the Kanzian. I'm sorry if it's wrong, but say again? Kanzian, thank you. That presents a biodiversity threat, but also a fire hazard, and it was very interesting to be taken through that process of a situation out there and how they're trying to manage it, and ways that we could potentially try and work together to move forward in eradicating that weed that we don't need in our township. I also attended meetings with the Great Western's Future Committee and the Halls Gap Committee of Management as well during the month. I attended listening posts at Glenorchy, which was a fabulous morning up there outside the post office, and of course in Halls Gap, and enjoyed speaking to all the locals who came past. And I also shared some time at the store listening post with Jenny as well to speak to the community out there. And the Thriving Regions workshop that you did online, Councillor Greenberger, I also attended, and I second everything that you actually have just stated and support you on that. It was very, very interesting. And the Grampians 2025 and beyond, I found that an amazing day to not only network but to listen to inspiring speakers. There was 11 shires represented there amongst many other people, and it's about working together and looking at the future of the Grampians region and in a collaborative approach, which I believe is extremely important. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hine. Councillor Probst.
Okay, one of the meetings I've been to in this last month was the North Central LEN, working to try and not just work with disengaged children, but work with all youth from young to secondary age and school leaving to, find a future for them. What I find difficult is that the North Central LEN covers an area like a bit north of us, and they only get their funding from grants, and they apply for grants to cover like bigger areas, but they don't necessarily get approved. There was one particular grant, they got funding for the Bullock-Loddon Shires, and they'd applied for St Arnaud as well, but they weren't given that grant, and no one else was given the grant for St Arnaud. So they're finding that very frustrating. As a St Arnaud person, I find that very frustrating too. And as a mother who's had disengaged children, that's extra frustrating. Murray and I also met with a couple of locals about Batio Catio and the possibility of getting water back in there. So they're working with the Water Authority to try and get their agreement to divert water back into Batio when it's not needed for further along down. So hopefully they can actually get approval from the Water Authority so that we might actually get some rec water back there. The other thing I think that's really important for our community in St Arnaud particularly is the health and doctor situation. Like, our doctors are getting to retirement age and they're struggling to find replacements. So I've suggested the community gets together, so councillors, hospital doctors and community, to have a bit of a brainstorming about what we can do to try and attract doctors to our area, because I think it's only by offering our town as a wonderful place to live, which it actually is, that we can get doctors to come here rather than go somewhere else, because they're short everywhere. So we're having our first little brainstorming tonight, so it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of that. And then the final thing, like Jack alluded to this in the listening post as well, and like handing out the brochures to ask people to do the surveys. Quite often the comment was like, what difference will it make? And people are a little bit apathetic. So I think there's a real onus on us as councillors and on council staff to think about ways we can communicate better and get the story across better. But then there's also an onus, I guess, on community to read the paper, to look at Facebook, to talk to us so that it's two ways. So, you know, how can we actually communicate better? It's a question I've raised with a few people and no one really has a practical answer. So we'll keep working on it.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Councillor Emerson.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you to Karen for pinching all the meetings that I've been to, but I think I've been to 12 meetings in the last month over here, in addition to most of the ones that Karen said, the St Arnaud Rec Advisory Group, the Listening Posts, the VNI West, the Queen Mary Gardens, the SCAN organisation. It's been full on. I think Karen and I are working as a pretty good team to represent the Cara Ward. But in addition to that, I've had a number of meetings with the Store Gift Event Management Board because the Store Gift is coming up. As a member of the MAV board, we've been discussing numerous things relative to all parts of local government, from housing to sustainability, you name it, we've been discussing it. Hopefully we'll get somewhere with it at some stage or other. One very enjoyable place that I went to was Nagambie. I got invited there by the president of the Nagambie Rowing Club. They were celebrating 100 odd years of rowing. Very successful rowing club over there at Nagambie. But I got invited over because they'd worked out there was 3 stall gift winners from the one region. So they made up a plaque to recognise that in conjunction with their rowing announcements. And also they put a great big mural at the lake representing and recognising the 3 stall gift winners, which I was pretty chuffed about and nobody knew very much about. So that's probably about it for me. It's been busy as usual.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. And I would just like to thank all the councillors for the listening posts that you've all attended to. We've had a lot of listening posts over the last couple of weeks, and we've either had 1, 2 or 3 councillors at each of those listening posts. We've been able to gain 562 responses, which is incredible. So well done. You've all put a lot of work into what you've done, been out there, listened to our public, our community, and been really good representation. So thank you. And I won't double up on what other councillors have said because a lot of the things you've been to, but I just want to highlight that CEO and I, every month we go out and we meet local businesses and we have a chat to them, and we just talk to local businesses about where they're at, what council may be able to do to help going forward, just a general chat about economics, politics, yeah, it's always really, really interesting.
Line dancing?
Well, that wasn't a local business, but but I really enjoy chatting with these local businesses, and it's a good way of getting your head around what they've got to offer and when you're knowing what all the other businesses have as well, it's a really good networking, and you can sort of feed into the businesses and say, well, person's doing that, and give them a little bit of advice and give them advice about where council's at, and I just really enjoy. So we've had 6 businesses that we've met this month, and I think they enjoy our company as well, but I just find them really, really really valuable. And yes, we did do line dancing, even though our CEO didn't quite last the full half an hour or an hour. But yeah, brings back a lot of memories, I suppose, being a bit of a girly thing. Yeah, don't mind having a little bit of a dance, so I did really enjoy it. And thank you to our CEO for asking me to go along to the line dancing. So I also, the Country Women's Association Women Group, AGM and Autumn Conference, went there one morning, which was lovely. Got to chat to some incredible women. Very interesting to hear what the CWA do. Each group works a little bit differently, but credit to them because they offer a wide, complex, different array of things. Obviously, a lot of it's about fundraising and supporting women. But yeah, it's just great group of women, and I really did enjoy going to the conference. So I also went to Grampians Beyond 2025, a State of the Region Forum, 11 Shires, which was just invaluable networking, and I agree, it was a fantastic day, a full day, but it was really well worth going to. I also got the pleasure of giving my mum and dad some flowers on their 60th wedding anniversary. So big congratulations to mum and dad. 60 years is a long time. But yeah, look, it was a very proud moment, and I did enjoy doing it. So I went to the Thriving Regions workshop online, and I do agree with what Councillor Greenberger has said. It's great when you see community driving and community doing it together and having those community drivers. It's really amazing what you can do sometimes if you just reach out and say to people, here's an idea, what do you think? Get a collective people together and, drive it yourself. And there's so rewarding when you do drive things and get them to fruition. And yeah, there's a lot of good ideas came out of that workshop. And one of the highlights, obviously, the Great Western Football Netball Club Rooms opening. Once again, a very proud moment. My dad used to coach for Great Western, so it was just, I thought, oh my gosh, how lucky am I to be doing this and to be doing the opening. Brought back lots of memories of when I was young and football at Great Western, and great club, and yeah, they're also very proud of what they've been able to achieve, and us as a collective have been able to achieve, and just, great club rooms, and I think they'll, just having something like that will go above and beyond for them. So I've also been doing a lot of advocacy in the background, letters, phone calls to members of Parliament, just trying to find some answers on what's happening with the Category D funding for our businesses at Halls Gap, who were severely impacted economically with the fires and loss of revenue and loss of business. We are still advocating, Councillor Hyde and myself and the CEO and the Ben collectivists, just trying to, and Mark Sleeman, trying to find some answers. We're very hopeful that we will get some funding. We're not sure yet if we do, what it will look like. We can't seem to get any direct answers, but yeah, we have had lots of conversations with lots of people, and our businesses are sort of, breaking point. So we would love the state government to give us some answers to what they think might be available for Category D funding, and if so, when and what it may look like. And as we know, the Halls Gap has been through a pretty rough time, but the Grampians is open, and the Grampians is looking lovely at the moment. The best time to go to the Grampians, not too hot, it's just nice. And, go and get an ice cream, just go for a day trip. We're sort of really encouraging people to get back and support the Grampians. Like a lot of people I know do support the Grampians, but if you haven't supported the Grampians, haven't been to the Grampians, then now's the best time. Yeah, it's beautiful if you like hiking. I love hiking. And to hike up the top of the Grampians, just look over the whole region, it's just absolutely breathtaking. So just really trying to encourage people to think about the Grampians and put it on their little tick box that, you know, you might go there for a weekend and go and visit, because we're very proud of our Grampians and we love our Grampians, and we'd love you to come and support our businesses who have been through a bit of a rough time. So that's me. And we also have one report there for the Queen Mary Botanic Garden Advisory Group meeting minutes. So those minutes are there to read. And yeah, we just have a resolution that the reports be received. So we just need someone to move that.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Somebody a second?
Happy to second that.
Thank you, Councillor Hyde. Just show of hands if you're happy to accept those. Yep. Okay, that's carried. So our next item 12 is urgent business. So do we have any urgent business?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have a matter of urgent business, and I would move a motion that Council considers approving the urgent business item, which is in relation to the disaster at Halls Gap.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Do we have somebody to second that we go into?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Do you have anyone opposed to the motion? Okay, Councillor Emerson, would you like to speak to?
Yep, thank you. The motion is for the Municipal Association of Victoria, and it's for them at their State Council at the end of May to call on the Victorian State and Commonwealth Governments to establish an intergovernmental task force, including MA representatives, to work with the insurance industry to find affordable and available insurance cover for flood and bushfire-prone communities. The scope of the task force should include, but is not limited to, agreeing upon how to ensure there is ongoing strong partnerships between insurers and governments, risk reduction, methods and natural hazard management plans that address insurers' concerns. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Blake, would you like to speak?
I just think that Councillor Emerson brought up a very good point there. It's the severity of this and the urgency of this that we've got to act upon it pretty quick. Thank you.
Okay, would any other councillor like to speak to the urgent business?
I'd like to address the motion, if I may.
Okay, yeah, look, I'm satisfied with the sense of urgency, so I'm happy to accept that, yeah, so show of hands that go into urgent business item.
Madam Mayor, I've only read out the motion. I haven't had a chance to address the motion yet as to why we need to go with it.
Yeah, so I was going to do another motion to accept your particular motion. So we accepted that we will go into urgent business, and now I'm happy for you to put a motion to say what that urgent business item is.
Okay, well, I'll do it again. The motion that I'm prepared today is that the Municipal Association of Victoria calls on the Victoria State and Commonwealth Governments to establish an intergovernmental task force, including MAV representatives, to work with the insurance industry to find affordable, available insurance cover for flood and bushfire-prone communities. The scope of the task force should include, but is not limited to, agreeing upon how to ensure there is ongoing strong partnerships between insurers and governments, risk reduction, methods and natural hazard management plans that address insurers' concerns.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. So we have someone to second that particular urgent business?
Yeah, I'll second that, yes.
Thank you, Councillor Blake. Councillor Emerson, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The Municipal Association Victoria has two national state council meetings each year. One is coming up at the end of May, and I considered it was important that we register our motion on the state council motions for the MAV to get some movement in regard to the federal and state government agreeing to partnership with the insurance companies to make sure we get some action in regard to insurance for the disaster areas. The region of Halls Gap, which has been badly affected by the last disaster of fires, and I understand there's still regions throughout Victoria waiting up to 5 years from the flood recovery disasters that happened up along the Murray River. And I think it's time that we tried to force the hand of the Commonwealth and state governments through the MAV discussions that they have with the governments to put us in a position where everybody understands that there are very serious insurance concerns in areas that are affected by disasters. We here at the Northern Grampians Shire specifically talk about Halls Gap, which is and Pomona, which are two recent very bad disasters. And if we can get this motion passed today and taken to the MAV State Council, I think it'll be advantageous to us to put some pressure on the governments, and the MAV put some pressure on the governments to work out a way forward in working with the insurance companies of Australia.
Thank you. I'll say Councillor Emerson. Councillor, did you wish to speak? Okay. So, any councillor opposed to the motion? Any councillor like to speak to the motion? It just gives you an opportunity to speak and support what Councillor Emerson is saying. I think that it is a nationwide problem, and it definitely is a problem, and a problem that needs to be addressed. This gives us a great opportunity to advocate and hopefully have a national action task force if we can get them together. I think that the urgent business is a really important urgent business, and I thank Councillor Emerson for bringing this to our attention. So if no other councillor wants to speak for or against the motion, show of hands, those in favour? Okay, so that's carried. Okay, so now we're going to number 13, public question time. I'm just going to read out just the rules of public question time. So question time shall not exceed 15 minutes, a maximum of 3 questions at any one meeting. The presentation of each question shall not exceed 2 minutes. Speaker can provide a brief background to the question, 30 to 50 seconds. Chair may disallow a question. Chair may accept or reject additional questions. A question will not be debated. A written response will be given for all public questions. So we have 2 questions without notice, and I'll start, and then I'll let Councillor Hyde do the other questions. So I'm going to hear from Ross Hudson. So Ross, would you like to read the questions out?
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Hislop. Good afternoon, everyone. I actually have 3 questions in my questions without notice today. The first question is, how much has Northern Grampians Shire Council been funded by Vic Health for how many hours per week to employ its youth engagement officer? My second question is, how much has Northern Grampians Shire Council been funded by who for how many hours per week to employ its family violence prevention officer? And question 3 is, what is the Northern Grampians Shire Council working from home policy, and how many staff employed are in positions that it applies to out of the total staff profile? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ross. So we'll give you a written reply to your question. So thank you for your questions. So I will now leave the room.
The second public question has been submitted by Jacinta O'Sutherland. Would you like to read your question out? Or I can do it for you. Yep. Yep.
Thank you for your time today. This is a question and it has been mentioned today, a recent briefing for councillors on renewable energy, or maybe it was on the VNI West only, I'm not clear about that, in the Northern Grampians Shire. None of the following groups, Wallaloo and Gree District Alliance, Landcare, Firefighters Against Renewables all over Victoria, the VFF, Sananad or local branches, Sananad Young Farmers, No Navarre Wind Farm, Avoca Stuart Mill Wind Farm Community. None of these groups were asked to participate in your briefing, and given that these groups are directly impacted by, extraordinarily well informed on the issues, as well as ratepayers who live and work in this community, why were these stakeholders excluded?
Thank you, Jacinta. Our CEO, would you like to address that question?
Yes, thank you. Look, Jacinda, it wasn't our intention to exclude those groups whatsoever. In fact, I'm very proud to say Northern Grampians has a proud track record in connecting those groups to industry through our monthly Renewable Energy Forum, and councillors also attend those. In particular, Colin Coates and Barry Batters are regular attendees. In terms of the actual briefing, the main reason was essentially there wasn't time. We did have the SWRRA, the Southern Wimmera Renewable and Research Association, present. There was three people there that presented. It went from 9:30 to 1:30, so it was completely full of TCV, VicGrid and a number of other agencies. And then we had a site visit from 2 to 4, so it was completely packed out. When I became aware that some of those groups weren't included, I contacted Ben Duxton, who's the chair of the Wallaloo Gree Alliance, and also Colin Coates, who's the chair of the VFF St Arnaud, and committed to have another briefing at some point. And so we will try and invite all the groups that you have listed, if they're available and want to present to council within the time frame, they certainly will have that opportunity. So we will include it. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, that also answers my second question, which was what action would the council take to redress this? Could help with some of your communication or finding the community drivers even.
Thank you, Jacinda. I will just follow up on adding to what our CEO has said. We did meet Northern Grampians Shire with London, Yarri Ambiac Bloke and the Gunawarra to discuss VNI and renewables, and a working group is going to be formed from that, and moving forward we will work together. Together we are stronger, and as our CEO did point out, a time constraint is our biggest challenge, but we respect your question and we'll certainly see what we can accommodate. Thank you.
I appreciate that. We're great. We'll look forward to it.
Thanks. Would you mind getting Mayor Heslop in? Thank you. We can move on to 14.
Okay, so now we've got to item 14, closure of meeting pursuant to section 62A of the Local Government Act. So we have a resolution, a recommendation, sorry. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Happy to move a motion that we move into closed council under section 66(2)A of the Local Government Act to consider some confidential contract discussions.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Emerson. Do we have someone to second that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Probes. Councillor Emerson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, Madam Mayor, it's a procedural motion.
Okay. Any councillor opposed to the motion? Show of hands. Those in favour? Okay, so now we'll go into closed council.
Oh, no. Rightio, thank you, Mayor. Just reporting, pleased to report back on the outcome of the closed business, 14.1. The Council does not accept the revised rates and issues a notice to proceed 12-month extension under clause 1A 1.2b of the contract C6 2023-24 for the 12 months extension and enacts a new procurement process. Thank you.
Okay, there be no further business. I'll now declare that the meeting is closed at 1:27. Thank you.